And we're in John's Gospel, chapter 8, and we'll read verses 12 to 20. Reading from the ESV. Again, Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. So the Pharisees said to him, You're bearing witness about yourself. Your testimony is not true. Jesus answered, Even if I do bear witness about myself, my testimony is true. For I know where I came from and where I am going. But you do not know where I come from or where I am going. You judge according to the flesh. I judge no one. Yet even if I do judge, my judgment is true. For it is not I alone who judge. My judgment is not I alone who judge, but I and the Father who sent me. In your law it is written that the testimony of two people is true. I am the one who bears witness about myself, and the Father who sent me bears witness about me. They said to him, therefore, Where is your Father? Jesus answered, You know neither me nor my Father. If you knew me, you would know my Father also. These words he spoke in the treasury as he taught in the temple, but no one arrested him because his hour had not yet come. This is followed on from the incident physically in terms of the way our Bibles are put together after the woman caught in adultery. But as we said in the last talk, this bit, the incident of the woman caught in adultery, which probably happened, was not originally part of John's Gospel. So verse 12 here follows on probably from verse 52 in chapter 7, where it was the Feast of Tabernacles, and we'd said that water was a significant part of that kind of water ceremonies, and then Jesus said, I am the, talks of himself being the living water. There were also candlelight ceremonies as well. So Jesus here speaks about himself being the light of the world. It would be a particularly opposite way of expressing things. Also, particularly in Isaiah, it talks about Jesus being a light to the Gentiles, a light to the nations, and so on. And if you want to look things up, you can look up Isaiah 42 verse 6, Isaiah 49 verse 6, and Isaiah 51 verse 4. So Jesus is making quite an audacious claim here, saying, I am the light of the world. That's one heck of a claim to make about yourself. It says, whoever follows me will not walk in darkness. Now, two things here. One, the Pharisees were, and the religious leaders were walking in darkness. And many of our so-called religious leaders who are also walking in darkness. In fact, you could say walking in darkness is exactly what they're doing. If you spell walking, W-O-K-I-N-G. But anyway, that's just an aside. We want to walk in the light. And we walk in the light, we need to know Jesus, we need to follow Jesus. And if we do follow him and trust in him, we will never be in darkness. It says, whoever follows me will not walk in darkness. Now, life may get very difficult. The world may turn against us. In fact, the world is against us. But I mean, it may be, for a long time, this country that's not been particularly prevalent. It is becoming increasingly prevalent. Nothing like what it is in some other nations of the world. But our society is anti-Christian. We do not need to fear. We need to continue to trust in Jesus, and whatever circumstances might come upon our life, whether it's explicitly because of being a Christian, or whether it's just what happens in life, because things happen to all of us. We will not walk in darkness if we continue to follow Jesus. And so the Pharisees said to him, You're bearing witness about yourself. Your testimony is false or not true. And they were basing their arguments on ignorance. And quite often, if you hear people on the media of various sorts raising anti-Christian points, a lot of the time they're just based on ignorance. And he says, I do bear witness about myself, and my testimony is true, for I know where I came from. They had no idea where Jesus came from. I know he told them, but Didn't mean anything to them. It says, you don't know where I come from and you don't know where I'm going. You don't know what I'm about. So the Pharisees' arguments, as they were based on ignorance. It says, you judge according to the flesh, I judge no one. Now, there are two things here about judging according to the flesh. One side, we can look at it purely philosophical terms, neutral terms, if you like. That if we base something purely on human reasoning, we will never know the truth. Now, that does not mean we should not use human reasoning. God gave us minds, we're meant to use them. But if we make an idol out of it, if we use purely on human reasoning, and if we do that, we're making an idol out of human reasoning, then we will never know the truth. It will lead us astray. There are numerous examples of that. We need to use our reasoning, but we also need the revelation from God. We need to take him at his word. What does God say? Yet even you judge good flesh, I judge no one. Now we need to be very careful here. People are very keen to say, "Oh, Jesus would never tell me what the way I live my life is wrong, or what I do is wrong." They love things like "do not judge." They completely misunderstand what Jesus said. Earlier on, I think it's in chapter 5, Jesus said, "The Father has entrusted all judgment to me." Jesus will come back and he will judge the world. He didn't come to judge the world this time. And we are still in the period where he will not judge, is not judging the world. Now that does not mean, he's not saying that certain things that we do are wrong or certain things we do are right. It does not mean that at all. When he returns, he will return in judgment, and the world will know what it means for Jesus to judge. But he certainly tells us, I think it's in chapter 15. Could be wrong, but I think it's chapter 15. Where Jesus says, "The world hates me because I tell it that its sinfulness, that its ways are evil." So, don't you dare take a verse like this out of context or in isolation. And it says, "If I do judge, my judgments are true because I judge not on my own, but I judge how the Father judges." Jesus, the Son, and the Father are completely united. So the Pharisees continued in their ignorance and stupidity. They said, "Where is your Father?" Jesus answered, "You know neither me nor my Father. If you knew me, you would know my Father as well." The Son and the Father and the Son come together as a package. So there's complete unity. So if you reject one, you're rejecting the other. If you know one, you know the other. It says, "These words he spoke in the treasury as he taught in the temple, but no one arrested him because his hour had not yet come." Men were not in control of events. God was in control of events. Amen.